How the heck do you get a job as a White House photographer? It seems like there are so many photographers throughout the country. Photojournalism, it's something that makes me really sad. And I'd love to talk to you about this too, where I feel like as a field, it's shrinking in large part because so many of these newspapers are folding, and that the newspapers would be the primary employer, the magazines too, the print magazines. So before we get into kind of the future of photojournalism, how did you develop and then wind up with maybe the highest profile photojournalist gig in the world?
Well, I mean, let me preface this by saying that given where we are today, which is, not long after Joe Biden has been elected, I've got a lot of people reaching out to me saying, I want to be Joe Biden's photographer. And, and my response to them is, I try to be blunt. I go, if Joe Biden doesn't know you now, he's not going to hire you. He's had a campaign photographer for the last 2 years. That's the guy that's likely to get the job. For me, I just by, sheer coincidence, these things happen in life. I was working for the Chicago Tribune. I was based in DC in Washington. So when Barack Obama was elected to the Senate in 2004, Jeff Zeleny, who was then a reporter with the Washington Bureau of the Tribune, he and I documented Obama's first year in the Senate. And I got access that nobody else got because I was with the quote unquote hometown newspaper. So I got to know him on a professional, just in a professional way. But he also got a chance to see how I worked, which is, I like to say I work with, a small footprint. I try not to interfere with what's going on. And he saw that I took my job seriously. So, skip ahead to 4 years, he gets elected president and asked me to be his White House photographer. So that's the way it happened for me.
I'd imagine there were campaign photographs being taken all the time. That was not you, or that was you?
2007 is when he started the campaign, because he started actually in February 2007, pretty early. And I covered probably the first 3 months of the campaign. And then I quit. I quit the Tribune because I thought they had just been bought by a real estate magnate, and I didn't like the direction the newspaper was going. I was, and I just didn't think that I could stomach it anymore. And even though I sort of had the inside track to covering his campaign, I just could not see myself working for the Tribune anymore. And I ended up taking a teaching job, a photojournalism teaching job at Ohio University. And then I would occasionally, as a freelancer, hook up with him on the campaign trail. So I sort of kept my foot in the door a little bit.
And then he wins in 2008, and then you get the word, hey, come back to DC and become the White House photographer. That must have been quite a call. Was it from Barack himself, or was it from someone on his team?
Gibbs was kind of my main contact with Obama. And Robert Gibbs, a lot of people, just think of him as the press secretary. But Gibbs was one of the most influential aides. He was really like sort of a senior advisor, as well as the press secretary. So he was the one who called me on behalf of the president-elect. He called me the night before classes for the winter quarter were supposed to begin, and on a Sunday night. And so the following morning, Monday, I walked into my boss at Ohio University and told him that I was leaving that afternoon for DC, and I was quitting my job. I kind of had given them a heads up that this might happen, but you never know until you get that call.
So then you proceeded to spend 8 years as the White House photographer. So I mean, obviously you'd spent a lot of time in DC, so you were very familiar with the environment. But coming into the White House, that must have been an incredible journey where you must have felt like you were documenting history essentially every day for 8 years. What was that adjustment like? And the other question I'd have is, it seems completely physically impossible to me for any one human to cover everything that happened in the White House. So is there like a whole team of you?
Yeah, I had a staff. My approach going in was that I was going to be all in every day, because my attitude was, if you were going to document for history, you can't predict when history is going to happen. You know, you don't always get
notice
2 hours notice. Yeah. But then also in terms of photography, I always felt that the fleeting moments, little moments, the way he interacts with certain people, if you're not there all the time, you're definitely not going to make that picture. And so I wanted to make sure that I was all there all the time to make those fleeting moments, because I didn't ever want to miss anything. So that's sort of the way I approached the job. And I knew what I was in for. I don't think my wife knew what I was in for, because, you kind of put your personal life on hold in my case, for 8 years. But, I did have a staff, so don't feel sorry for me, because I could have easily, taken a day off here and there. But my attitude was just always be there.
So when does the day start and end for you in that situation? Like, I feel like you'd want to live near the White House just to be able to get there.
Yeah, I didn't live that far. I lived about 15, 20 minutes away. And I would try to get there. One of the, things that we have to worry about as staffers that he doesn't really have to worry about is, you got to commute. You got to get there. Whereas his commute was, 2 minutes. Walk from the residence to the Oval Office. So, but I would try to get there at least an hour before him. He would come down to the Oval Office sometime between 9 and 10 in the morning. So I try to get there, about an hour before. I did have responsibilities as the head of my office, and I would try to deal with those either early in the morning or at the end of the day. And then I would basically tag along with him all day long until he went home for dinner. And, and sometimes after dinner, he would come back to the West Wing, or there'd be events, on the state floor or outside of DC that he would go to at night. And so, every day was, a little different, but pretty much I would just tag along with him, at least 10 hours a day, sometimes 15, sometimes longer.
So you're documenting him. People like me come in, and people like me you don't really remember, because I met President Obama, let's say either 3 or 4 times, something like that, either in a group or in a collective setting. And you were joking that like by the 6th picture you might recognize someone again. I did get a picture every time I met him, which was kind of nice. It's like you're around him. There were always these photographers trying to capture the moment. And you don't even realize it when you're the guest at that moment. And so then you just get the photo later and you're like, incredible. All of my exchanges, immortalized. Now you probably have all sorts of crazy experiences and recollections. Was there anything that you're able to share about an experience where you were like, wow, that just happened?
For me, a lot of the wow moments were not necessarily like the big event, but more those moments that I talked about, those little moments which really define him as a human being. This is just a for instance. I mean, Ben Rhodes, who was a deputy national security advisor, and his daughter, he came in with his daughter like around Halloween time one year, and she was just learning to crawl. And so Obama gets down on the rug of the Oval Office, squats down, and gets Ella to crawl to him. And then he lies down on his back and he's lifting her up. And, those moments are just like, I can't believe this is happening as I'm photographing this. Certainly the Bin Laden raid and big historic events like that obviously are also wow in a kind of different way, where you sort of really feel the weight of history taking place right in front of you. I think one of the things that was advantageous about being a seasoned photographer photojournalist, is I was sort of able to keep my emotions in check, and not get so high, if you will, when these big moments are happening. So just sort of try to keep my level pretty even, so I'm not so overwhelmed by what's happening that I'm still able to make pictures.
Thank you for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you did, please do subscribe to Yang Speaks and click on notifications so we can let you know every time we have a new episode.